Thank you so much for attending my PowerPoint presentation on Spectre. Make support sad. Spectre is a melee universal carry and, by some definitions, the only universal carry in all of Dota 2. Her most iconic feature is her global gank presence thanks to her ultimate Shadow Step. This allows her to target a single enemy hero on the map and spawn an illusion upon them that she can then teleport to. This can make her incredibly frustrating to play against if you aren't playing someone with natural escape options, and even if you have some, she can quickly pick up an Orchid and a Nullifier to make sure that if she gets on you, you're probably going to die. Even if you do manage to wrangle out of her disgusting purple claws, she also has Spectral Dagger, which is one of the single best chasing tools in the game. It's a unit target magical damage nuke that also leaves a path behind you as you run away that allows Spectre to go over impassable terrain to hunt your bitch ass down. If that weren't enough, she also has Desolate, an on-hit effect that deals an insane amount of pure damage to you as long as there is no friendly unit immediately nearby. Desolate works perfectly well on illusions, both the one that she spawns with Shadow Step and her Aghanim Scepter Haunt, as well as those from Manta Style, meaning that she can deal a ridiculous amount of single target pure damage that there's no real way to itemize against. If that weren't enough, Spectre's very nice stat gain, natural item build, and Dispersion allow her to tank an insane amount of damage without going down in a fight. Dispersion's damage reflection system also means that if you do decide to stand your ground, you'll wind up beating your own ass instead. All of these combine to make an incredibly fun hero that scales ridiculously well into the late game, but can be an absolute terror to play against if you don't know what you're doing. And frankly, even if you do know, it won't help you much. First off, let's talk about her global gank presence. Spectre's ability to jump scare you whenever you're just walking around the map is legendary. It's definitely in the same tier as Spearbreaker as far as how the hell did he see me and oh god, what's happening, oh god, I'm dead. The only saving grace you'll have is that Shadow Step has a strangely long cast point, meaning that if you just blip into vision for a second, there's a chance she won't cast it on you. However, it definitely doesn't have a longer cast point than it takes to deward, so anytime you discover an enemy observer ward deep in your jungle, just know that the Spectre has her eyes trained on the exact same spot. Now early on, it's actually kind of difficult for Spectre to just go in and kill you right off the bat. She usually needs some help from some other heroes, but once she gets things like Manta Style, Orchid, Nullifier especially, she can just pop you wherever you are. At a certain point, she doesn't even have to care about Desolate. She'll just jump on you in the middle of a creep wave. This gives a lot of heroes a really sadistic choice to make. They can either stand their ground and man fight a Spectre, which they will lose, or attempt to run away. Unfortunately, running away from a Spectre is a lot easier said than done. I talked a little bit about Spectral Dagger earlier, how it does a good amount of magic damage and gives her a way to chase you over impassable terrain, but what I didn't mention is that it's also a really long slow, and if you pick her only good facet, it will also automatically be cast on you whenever she uses her ulti. This makes her really good at chasing for an extended period of time and gives her a way to deal with your defensive options. If you force staff away, you're slowed and she can get to you faster than you can run away. If you're Glimmer Caped, she knows exactly where you are for some reason and can simply follow the path to jump scare you again when you get out of Glimmer. Eul's Scepter is okay, but once you land, you still have to deal with the Spectre. In most cases, your best choice is to just buy as much time as you can for your team to farm items to beat her later, and just sacrifice your life for the greater good. I also talked a little bit about Desolate. Let's talk about it a little more. So this ability is kind of weird. The way that it works is that it only procs on her attacks if you are a certain distance away from any friendly units. This means that if you're hitting a jungle camp and she ults on you, Desolate will proc right off the bat. However, if you pop Manta Style, the illusions count as friendly units and you no longer take Desolate damage. Also, the range is like deceptively small. Like you can have a position 5 close to you in the lane and still have Desolate proc on you. It's something you just sort of have to feel out, and while you'll be very familiar with it by the end of the game, the Spectre will be even more familiar with it. Now you may think, well, it's a universal hero and their chasing ability is really crazy. I bet they're not that tanky. And you would be incorrect. Spectre just won't die whenever you go on her. The primary cause of this is Dispersion. This is her other passive other than Desolate that reflects a massive amount of the damage dealt to her back at you depending on how far away you are from her. This means that melee heroes are particularly bad at man-fighting Spectre because they take more return damage than anyone else. However, even if you're a sniper a screen and a half away, a lot of the damage you deal is just going to vanish into nothing, and at worst is actually just going to deal damage to your own teammates, because it is agnostic as to who is dealing the damage and who is receiving it. Dispersion also has an Aghanim Shard upgrade that turns it into basically half a Blade Mail with a very low mana cost, but this hero already has mana problems and needs a hell of a lot of items, so my personal recommendation is you don't go it. On top of that, as a universal hero, she has kind of insane stat gain, including 2.5 strength gain. She also likes to build up a bunch of items that just naturally make her tankier. Blade Mail is a really common pickup, especially if she's going the Radiance build, because the return damage stacks with Dispersion perfectly. She gets 10 strength from the power treads that she usually goes, and she often picks up things like Scotty or Abyssal Blade too. All of these combine to make her shockingly difficult to actually wear down, but even if you do, there's a chance she gets out alive anyway. This is because while Shadow Step is primarily an offensive ability designed to pick off enemy heroes, she can also use it as an eject button and just get out of wherever she is in order to harass another support on the opposite side of the map for a few seconds and then waddle into the trees with Spectral Dagger. If she really wants to escape and she happens to have an Aghanim Scepter, she can burn that massive cooldown to spawn a Shadow Step illusion in front of every enemy hero, and then transport herself to the least threatening one. She used to be able to spam reality like absolute crazy and make it impossible to target her for a few seconds. Valve basically removed that from the game by giving reality a short cooldown and a mana cost, but if you have mana to burn, you can just do it for funsies. Her global presence and ability to teleport across the map combined with that insane strength gain and naturally tanky item build make her shockingly difficult to kill without a break. And don't worry, we'll be talking about the best breaks in the game very shortly. Now as for how to play Spectre, it's actually kind of difficult because she has two different prominent builds. The first involves going an Orchid Malevolence right after Boots and using it to get pickoffs and Snowball as a ganking hero. The second involves picking up Radiance right after Boots and using it to become some kind of crazy ganking hyper carry. Now as for her weaknesses, Spectre's lane kind of sucks. She's really bad at getting kills with Spectral Dagger, and while some clueless position 3s and 4s can waddle up and offer their lives to her, it's unlikely to happen more than once. In high-level matchmaking, the Orchid build is currently vastly superior, and I cannot with good conscience recommend you ever build a Radiance. However, there are some games for it, and if you're at the MMR where games always take 90 minutes, it's probably a decent idea. With that in mind, you mostly want to pair up with babysitters like Lich or Oracle that can just sort of keep you safe while you aimlessly hit creeps for the first 8 minutes of the game. Spectral Dagger also has a pretty sizable mana cost and a pretty long cooldown as well in the early game, which means that whenever you cast it, you're going to have to make it count. Now, if you're going the Orchid build, you're going to be getting points in Desolate as soon as you max Spectral Dagger, but if you're going the Radiance build, you're going to be maxing Dispersion because you're going to be spending a lot more time in the jungle. And if you do show up, the Radiance burn is going to be doing the damage that Desolate otherwise would. Strangely enough, even after you get either of these two vastly different items, you're then immediately going to build a Manta style. After that, it's pretty much up to you. The Radiance build likes to go Orchid late, but the Orchid build likes to just rush into other items that help them pick heroes off. Basher and Nullifier are probably my two most commonly bought items right after. Bloodthorn is also a crazy good pickup because it buffs the amount of damage that your illusions do, and they already hit like trucks, which means that you can just obliterate supports as soon as you see them. However, by the time you get all these neat little items, the enemy supports might have a couple of defensive tools, which means that you might have to go a Nullifier a little bit faster than you're usually comfortable with. If you really want to go nuclear, like let's say you're going up against a Puck or some other hero like that, you can just go Sheepstick. Spectre ulting in and popping Scythe of Vice can be pretty unreactable once you get the muscle memory down, and you can usually use that time to kill whoever the hell you want as long as they're not already super tanky. Just spend the mid game using your ultimate to secure kills, and then use that money to funnel towards actually getting the kills for yourself. Soon, you will become the Orbital Spectre Cannon, and supports will fear you. Oh shit, I put the R after the E in Orbital Spectre Cannon. I'm not fixing it. The idea of a hyper carry in Dota 2 has sort of evolved over the years. I wrote a little bit about that here. Feel free to read it if you like. Now as for how to beat Spectre, there's quite a few different options. The first is to just not be a support player, but if that ship has already sailed, there's a few other things you can do. The first is to have safety in numbers. Spectre specializes in picking out one hero and grinding them into dust before the rest of the team can react. It's a hell of a lot easier to react if you're close to the guy getting pummeled. Being able to stack defensive items between supports is really strong against Spectre. Yes, Spectral Dagger is enough to deal with a Force Staff or a Glimmer Cape, but a combination of the two, or hell, multiple of them each, is a lot harder for her to deal with. Just having allied heroes nearby with stuns that can prevent her from using reality to return to her original position can result in her dying on the crackback. Sadly, you will have to watch it with the veneer of the respawn timer in your field of view. Also, heroes that can naturally generate their own friends make it a lot harder for her to proc Desolate damage, which is where a lot of her punch comes from in the mid and late game. Heroes like Meepo, Phantom Lancer, etc. are good at countering that aspect of the hero. Now, if you are a support player playing against a Spectre, first off, good luck, dude. Second off, go ahead and get as many D-wards up as you can at all times. Classic spots like the ward towers near the mid-tier 2s are a great place to start, but the triangle and near the mid lane is also a really good place to set up your blue wards in advance. Spectre players thrive on aggressive vision placement. Luckily for you, those are also the easiest to de-ward, and if it weren't for Spectre herself, they'd also be the safest. With that in mind, you can buy a smoke and then go out with a bunch of blue wards to find as many vision wards as you can, and then de-ward them all in one fell swoop. This is a really good way of preventing the Spectre's snowball. However, let's say Spectre has already gotten out of control entirely. That means that your game is going to be very difficult, but it doesn't mean it's over. There are multiple heroes in the game that can inflict long duration breaks to disable not one but two passives on Spectre, and there's an item called Silver Edge. Did you forget about it? Because I sure did, I forgot to put it in the slideshow. Pretty much any hero that is good at picking up Silver Edge should do so against a Spectre. Disabling Dispersion will make it a hell of a lot easier to kill her. Outside of that, there's the usual tank busters. Necrophos is a little bit sus because of how much she likes picking up a nullifier anyway, but Lifestealer is still a really good pickup even if she goes Basher to counter it. Percentage-based damage really just does go that brazy. Oh, and speaking of that nullifier, I want to share with you a very fun trick that nobody seems to know. As we all know, nullifier will counteract a force staff. You'll scooch forward an inch or two and then it'll immediately stop. This is because force staff applies a buff to you. However, what you might not know is that Hurricane Pike, when you're using its special active, is a debuff on the enemy hero. This means that if you have a Hurricane Pike, Spectre goes on you and uses Nullifier, you can use the Hurricane Pike on her or an illusion to send them away while sending you backwards the exact full length of a normal force staff. I do not know entirely why this works. I think it's because it's a debuff, and I said that very confidently, but I'm not 100% sure why. The only thing that matters is that it does in fact work, so Hurricane Pike is a very good tech pickup against this hero. In conclusion, Spectre is a very fun hero, and you should absolutely play her. When you draft her, try to have as many global heroes on the team. Spirit Breaker, Zeus, Nature's Prophet, whoever you can. Eventually you can start dropping in on the enemy side of the map like a couple of ODSTs from Halo. Peace on planet Earth.